Venezuela and Guyana to hold a high-level meeting face-to-face to address the Essequibo controversy on Thursday, December 14th, with the purpose of preserving peace in Latin America and the Caribbean. In Palestine, the Israeli regime continues its attacks against civilians in Gaza, killing dozens and injuring many others. And in Egypt, 4 candidates are competing in a presidential election overshadowed by the war in neighboring Gaza, with little doubt that incumbent Abdel Fattah al-Sisi will win a third term. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela and the Cooperative Republic of Guyana will hold a high-level meeting with the purpose of preserving peace in Latin America and the Caribbean. The meeting will be held on Thursday, December 14th in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. President Nicolás Maduro received a proposal for dialogue from the head of state of Brazil, Luis Inácio da Silva, and the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, during a telephone conversation. In both calls, President Maduro ratified the historical position of Venezuela's unquestionable sovereign rights over Guyana Essequibo, as well as the legitimate and peaceful nature of this territorial claim, which has been maintained in strict compliance with the provisions of the 1966 Geneva Agreement. Regarding the dialogue to be held between the two nations, the national government expressed its satisfaction and accepts this call with pleasure and commitment. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves announced a face-to-face meeting between Guyanese President Irfan Ali and Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro on December 14th in the Caribbean island.
Regarding an important initiative for face-to-face dialogue between the presidents of Guyana and Venezuela. That meeting, that dialogue, face-to-face, is scheduled to take place on Thursday, the 14th, here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This discussion would relate to matters consequential upon the border controversy which exists between Guyana and Venezuela.
The following report gives an overview of the traditional shouting in Nicaragua to honor the Virgin Mary, known as La Gritería. Our correspondent, Kenny Adoña, delves into the details of the history and significance of this cultural practice, as well as the customs and rituals associated with this tradition.
Le decimos con mucho amor y cariño, ¿quién causa tanta alegría? ¡Que viva la Virgen!
In an atmosphere of faith, tradition, and overflowing culture, the Catholic population of Nicaragua celebrates La Gritería in honor of the Virgin Mary. Thousands of Nicaraguan citizens and other nationalities congregate in the Cathedral of León in the west of the country. The place where the shout of "Who is the one who causes so much joy" is officially given in honor to the Immaculate Conception of Mary.
It is something very important for us Catholics. I'm a Catholic, and this is in our blood. The Virgin is everything for us Nicaraguans. Without her, we are nothing.
It seems to me a very beautiful expression of the popular fervor. The Marian spirit and the religiosity of the people from Lyon can be seen in the celebration of the shouting and the festivity to the purest conception of Mary.
And like this begins the pilgrimage of thousands of Catholic families who visit homes singing to the Virgin and receive caps or toast offered by the families celebrating this religious feast.
It means a lot to us because Our Lady has done so many miracles for us, and coming with the whole family, we bring a bag to carry the caps.
In the traditional caps, you're going to find the chinchincito, the matraca, but also now it's being modernized and other things are given to the people. It's an atmosphere of joy, rejoicing. Nicaraguans are very happy with this Catholic tradition.
This festivity of La Griteria arrived more than 400 years ago in León, but it has been officially celebrated for 166 years, and it has been passed from generation to generation.
My mother has taught me this tradition since I was a child, that the Virgin is our mother and we should love her very much. I go around shouting with fervor to the Virgin, not for what you are given, but to shout because that is the tradition. We celebrate and shout out that Mary is our mother.
It is the devotion of my grandmother and then my mom, but my grandmother's family was the one who celebrated it. My grandmother died of 98 and you had years to celebrate it, and now we continue. It is a tradition plus work. It is health that she sends us. That is what we want.
By celebrating La Griteria, the Nicaraguan population reaffirms its commitment to the Virgin Mary and strengthens faith and family unity, as well as to promote peace in the country.
TeleSUR, Nicaragua.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the south. Dozens of civilians were killed and many others were injured on Saturday in a series of airstrikes carried out by Israeli warplanes as well as artillery bombardments on various locations across the Gaza Strip. In Gaza City, Israeli warplanes launched intense airstrikes on the Sahaba and Darash neighborhoods, resulting in the death of at least 20 civilians and injuring others. Meanwhile, in the Shuhaya neighborhood of Gaza City, Israeli occupation forces bombarded 3 houses, leading to the murder of over 12 civilians and the injury of dozens. Several attacks were also reported throughout the Gaza Strip, resulting in civilian casualties and dozens of wounded, including children, women, and the elderly. Since the beginning of the Israeli aggression, nearly 16,500 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza, with 42,000 injured. Thousands remain missing under rubble in an ongoing and tragic humanitarian crisis. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Saturday denounced the UN Security Council after the United States vetoed a ceasefire resolution for Gaza, describing the international body as the Israel Protection Council.
Neither the will of the 121 countries calling for an immediate cessation of hostilities, nor the effort of the Secretary General of the United Nations, nor the sincere effort of the non-permanent members of the Security Council have been enough to mobilize the permanent members of the Security Council. I have just told you about last night's vote. With Americans' veto, there was no ceasefire decision again. Although 13 countries, including the permanent members, voted in favor of the resolution, unfortunately the result did not change. The fact that the world is bigger than 5 has once again proved to be true. It is essential, it is a must to reform the United Nations and the United Nations Security Council. It is not possible for humanity to make progress with this United Nations, with this United Nations Security Council.
In Yemen, Houthi military spokesman Brigadier General Yahya Sari said in a televised address on Saturday that all ships heading to Israel, regardless of nationality, would be a target for the Houthis until humanitarian supplies are allowed into Gaza without restrictions. The Houthis have sporadically attacked ships in the region over time, but attacks have increased since the start of the Israel-Hamas conflict and have intensified following an October 17th explosion at a hospital in Gaza that killed and wounded numerous people.
The armed forces of Yemen announced that they will prevent the passage of any ships heading to the Zionist entity of any nationality if water and medicines that are needed in the Gaza Strip are not allowed to enter. The ships will become a legitimate target for our armed forces. In order to ensure the safety of maritime navigations, we warn all ships and companies against dealing with this Israeli port. The armed forces of Yemen confirmed their full commitment to the continuation of global trade movement through the Red and Arabian Seas for all ships and all countries, except for ships linked to Israel or that will transport goods to Israeli ports.
In Palestine, the Ministry of Public Works and Housing denounced the destruction of more than 25% of the urban areas of the Gaza Strip as a result of the Israeli bombardment. In a recent report, the agency stated that these zones were completely wiped off the map. It also confirmed that more than 250,000 homes were destroyed. More than 30% of the infrastructure was totally damaged, including roads, water and sewage networks, power and communication lines, as well as thousands of educational and health centers and places of worship, both Islamic and Christian. The Ministry of Public Works and Housing stressed that this is in response to a recent assessment. However, it noted that it is currently not possible to realistically estimate the extent of the destruction due to the circumstances of the aggression. Also in the United Arab Emirates, citizens from different social movements mobilized this Saturday in front of the COP28 headquarters to show their support for the Palestinian people in the midst of the Israeli siege. The mobilizations took place on the 10th day of the Climate Summit meetings. Demonstrators demand that the government's meeting in Dubai intervene to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. They also call on all the countries of the world to join their efforts to guarantee the due respect of the rights of the Palestinian people who are under attack by the Israeli occupation forces. Meanwhile, with regard to the climate crisis, they point out that this situation is linked to wars.
This demonstration is in support of the Palestinian people so that their human rights be respected, against imperialism and fully support of the Palestinians. And one could think there is no connection between the Palestinian issue and the climate change, but the two are very connected because without respect for human rights, there is no climate justice.
The struggle of the Palestinian people and the liberation of Palestine relates to climate justice because we are tired of colonialism, tired of how at these negotiations they talk about justice without really knowing what that means for the people.
Palestinians have long endured human rights violations, and we know that behind such violations are the economic and political elites. Despite worldwide support for Palestine, the situation continues. We are also demonstrating here against climate change, denouncing actions by the industries, urging them to change their processes so they may stop polluting Mother Earth.
More than 1,000 demonstrators marched along Boulevard Voltaire in Paris to express their solidarity with the people of Gaza and call for an end to the Israeli army's bombardment of the Palestinian territory.
Let's stop the massacre of this population. We realize that with almost 18,000 dead, about a third of them are children and a third are women, innocent civilians. We have recently seen shocking images of middle-aged, elderly and young civilians being humiliated and stripped naked, a bit like what the Nazis did during World War II. So, it's all these images that are so repulsive to us and that drive me and my child to come and demonstrate our solidarity and support for the Palestinian resistance.
I'm just saying that we shouldn't have double standards. In fact, that's the problem. That's what I put up this sign. What is the difference between these two children? How France sends billions of euros and weapons to the Ukrainians. Children are dying, and now we're up to at least 20,000 people who have died, 80% of whom are children and women. And now we have a Macron government that is complicit in encouraging the massacre to continue. Double standards. It doesn't work.
We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back from the South. In Egypt, the presidential election campaign is underway, which will be held for a period of 3 consecutive days. Around 9,376 polling stations have been set up for this day, which will be held from Sunday, December 10th to Tuesday, December 12th. During these 3 days, some 67 million Egyptians will have the opportunity to cast their votes to choose between 4 candidates for the next president of the country, among which Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who is widely favored to retain the office. The process will be supervised by some 15,000 judges and will have the presence of more than 22,600 local and international observers, including 67 diplomats. The National Elections Authority is expected to announce the final results on December 18th if there is no need for a second round in January. Poland truck drivers continue to block access at border crossings with Ukraine. Truck lines are now stretching for over 19 miles and lasting up to 3 weeks in freezing temperatures. On November 6, Polish truck drivers started the move, claiming that before the conflict, 37% of the freight between Poland and Ukraine was done by Polish carriers and 63% by Ukrainian carriers, whereas now Poland holds only 8% of the market while Ukraine has grabbed 92%. Although Polish truckers say they are not stopping military transports or humanitarian aid into Ukraine, Ukraine is complaining of a weeks-long delay on war supplies. Officials say that they are planning to decongest the border by sending the trucks into Ukraine by rail. Sri Lanka underwent a nationwide power outage due to a failure in the main supply line system. The Ceylon Electricity Board announced that after several hours, they have only been able to restore power to the national hospital and inner areas around Colombo. They say they are working to re-establish power supply to the whole country as soon as possible. Another service affected by the power outage is the water supply, with some areas still getting water but with low pressure. The National Water Supply and Drainage Board said efforts are being made to guarantee the water supply in areas where there are no generators. Over 250 South Sudanese soldiers left on Friday the Democratic Republic of the Congo's east. The contingent left in 3 rotations throughout the day, according to a military source. The soldiers took off from Goma bound for Juba. After the Kenyans, the South Sudanese are the latest group from an East African Community regional force to withdraw from eastern DRC. The regional force includes Uganda and Burundi, who are set to leave in the coming weeks. The 7-nation EAC first deployed the troops in the violence-plagued eastern DRC in November 2022. They deployed at the invitation of the DRC authorities and were tasked with overseeing the withdrawal of M23 fighters from eastern DRC. But the DRC's president and local residents accused the force of cohabiting with the rebels rather than forcing them to lay down arms. Kinshasa then refused to renew the force's mandate. We have come to the end of this news brief, but before saying goodbye, we want to thank our Caribbean audience, especially the audience of Trinidad and Tobago. We are pleased to share our newscast and contribute to provide an alternative news source of the latest world events. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.